We should probably start with some basic definitions.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about inflation, in particular archetypal inflation, and we're talking about spiritualized ego. So
Mm-hmm.
it makes sense to talk about the ego briefly,
Mm-hmm.
just ego, period. The ego gets a bad rap. And ironically, that's part of the spiritualized ego
Mm-hmm.
trap, is
Yeah.
talking bad about the ego, right? The ego is not bad. The ego is not something that we're looking to kill. You hear people talking about ego death.
Mm.
The
Yeah, that
ego,
doesn't happen.
no, it doesn't happen. No, I mean, we understand what people mean by it, but the ego doesn't die. And if someone is suggesting that, then I think that that's a telltale sign that they're perhaps in spiritualized ego, or having a mental health crisis.
Mm.
Lots of possibilities, but the ego, very briefly, is what allows us to have any sense of distinction and differentiation and separation. So the ego is the activity of consciousness, or the function of consciousness. I think of it sort of like, I think about light. Light, well, it's not how I think about light, it's how science thinks about light. There's this term, the wave particle duality of nature, that applies to light. And so what that means is, depending on the context, light can either look like a wave or it can look like a particle. That is, it can look like an activity or it can look like a structure.
Mm.
And the ego, I think, fits that very well. The ego is both an activity and a structure.
Mm.
It's an activity of consciousness, and it's a structure that allows for the one mind, the one unified consciousness, to seemingly separate itself and differentiate into several billion consciousnesses,
Mm-hmm.
more than that if you include animals,
Mm-hmm.
which I certainly do. And so the ego is what allows that one consciousness to have the experience of multiplicity that we call people and animals,
Mm.
different perspectives,
Right.
right? And if there is no ego, then there is no multiplicity. There is no differentiation. There's no distinction. Without ego, I can't sit across from you and have a conversation with you, because there is
Mm-hmm.
no you.
Yes.
There's just oneness. So that's the functionality of the ego. So we don't want to kill that.